Is that okay? Everybody ready? I'll just stay on mute until I need to speak. Let me mute myself now. Okay, and it does look like our interpreter joined, Katie, so I'm going to go ahead and get that set up.
Hey, good morning, everybody. We'll give it just a few more seconds to let everybody get connected to audio and video. My name's Katie Varnado. I'm one of the regional directors here at Partners. I cover Catawba, Burke, and Rutherford counties. And I have the honor of being a little bit of an MC to our community cafe this morning. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us and spending some time with us on this Wednesday morning before Thanksgiving. The community cafes are designed to be open dialogue. It's truly a community conversation. So we want to invite you to join in at any point. Feel free to ask questions. This is by no means formal. Put things in the chat box. We want to hear what your thoughts are. We want your feedback. We want your questions. Everybody on our panel this morning is ready to answer your questions and make connections. And even just listening to our pre-conversation, we're already making those connections and networking. And I hope that you all find that valuable to make put a name to a face or a name to an organization. We'll put any information that you need in the chat box so that you can reach out afterwards, and our partners team will follow up on any questions that you have if we need to, and make sure that you get the information that you need. And I just want to reiterate that feel free to speak up anytime you want to. Be a part of the conversation, and again, welcome. So I want to introduce Abby, who is on our marketing and communications team. She is setting up our interpretation service now. Abby, do you want to comment anything about that?
Yes, so let me actually stop the interpretation for a second. And Mr. Cortez, if you don't mind, can you just give instructions in Spanish about how to move over to the Spanish channel, and then I'll enable it again?
Sure, definitely. Okay. Buenos días todos los que nos están acompañando esta mañana. Estamos aquí para dejarles saber de que vamos a tener esta sesión con Partners. Es una sesión informal. Queremos que todos traten de participar al grado posible. Y también queremos dejarles saber de que tienen la opción de escuchar este programa en español. Al pie de la pantalla hay como una esfera, como un globo terráqueo, y ustedes pueden entonces presionar allí y a través de eso pueden seleccionar la opción de español para que puedan escuchar todo este programa en español y también dar comentarios cuando se les dé la oportunidad para hacerlo. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. I'm going to turn that back on now.
All right, thank you.
And we are also offering closed caption. It's auto-generated by Zoom. So if you need to turn that off, if it's distracting to you, there is an option to turn that off, but that is available. And thank you again for joining us as we talk about veteran services in the community. And I'm going to let my colleagues introduce themselves. We'll start with Amber.
Good morning, I'm Amber Matthews. I'm one of the System of Care Community Training Coordinators at Partners, and I'm excited to be here this morning to learn more about how we can best serve our veterans in our community.
Jerry.
Good morning, everyone. Jerry Campbell, Community Engagement Specialist for the North Region, Surrey County, Iredell, and Yankton counties.
Thank you, Jerry. Jeannie.
Hi, my name is Jeannie Patterson, and I am another of the System of Care Community Training Coordinators at Partners.
And we have several other of our partners colleagues on the call with us today too that we can call on if we need questions answered from other departments and things like that. So now I want to introduce our panel to you. We have Brad Borders with Reboot. We have Wanda Berger, who will be speaking about veteran suicide, and Mike Hoy will be giving us an overview of Veterans Treatment Court in Catawba County. So first up, I will let Brad take it away.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving. Can you read me? You got me loud and clear? Okay, great. I put my earbuds in. So great to be with everybody on this day before Thanksgiving. I got involved with this program called Reboot, Combat Recovery, about 7 years ago, when I was on active duty at 3rd Special Forces Group. I been serving as a chaplain in the Army for the last 18 years, and began to see the ill effects of combat trauma in my unit, and lots of self-destructive behaviors, a lot of suicides, and it was in a special operations unit, so it was high functioning folks that were still having difficulty. And I began to ask around. Looked like we were missing something, and so I found out about Reboot Combat Recovery. They were a newer organization back in 2014 when I got introduced to them. Began to do some research, met the founders of the program, and took a long, hard look at it and decided that it was probably something that could be employed and have great results. And so a little background on Reboot. Reboot it's a course. It's not a support group. It's a course. It lasts 12 weeks where veterans can come and learn skills that will help them overcome what we call going in the hole, and hiding out in the darkness. And one of the things that we've come to understand about a veteran and veteran suicide, it's particularly dangerous when folks get isolated. And when we serve in the military, we're on a team. We've got a job that means something. There's a mission and purpose, and then when folks get out, they lose a lot of that. They lose connectivity. They lose their team. They lose their buddies, and they're simply only connected by maybe social media, even if they do that. And so a lot of veterans don't know how to transition away from that. They're having trouble finding mission and purpose in day-to-day life. And so Reboot was founded not by a military member. It was founded by a lady named Jenny Owens and her husband Evan. Jenny was an occupational therapist at a traumatic brain injury clinic in Clarksville, Tennessee, right outside of Fort Campbell. And her husband was actually a singer-songwriter in Nashville, right? And so neither one of them had ever served a day in the military, but through her interaction with veterans coming through this traumatic brain injury clinic, she recognized that they had not just physical wounds from their injuries in combat, but they had hidden spiritual and emotional wounds. And so her and her husband really developed a heart for these people, and began to reach out to them and have them over for dinner. They had the veteran and their spouse come over, and they developed this really neat community. And what they found after they created a space of trust, a space where folks could ask questions. And after a while, they started seeing the self-destructive behaviors decline and decrease, and they realized that they might be onto something. So they reached out to folks that were experts in the field, a guy named Chris Adsit, who, if anybody's been to a VA, one of the manuals that they give out at the VA on combat recovery was written by Chris Adsit. And so Chris helped develop the Reboot curriculum with Jenny and Evan, and they employed it. And so it started in Fort Campbell. They just started with a small group. It was very organic in the way it started, and now Reboot is in hundreds of communities across the United States, and now they've branched out and developed courses for first responders, and then now this year just launched a trauma recovery course for the general public, because the principles that are taught in the course that are transferable across all domains of society. And we all know that everybody's been through some type of trauma. And so we started Reboot in Statesville in 2017, and we just finished our, I don't know, maybe our 10th or 12th class. We've had over 100 veterans come through the program. We've seen incredible growth in the lives of the veterans that show up. I also serve as the Vice President of Outreach for Purple Heart Homes, and we address housing issues, and safety and accessibility, renovations, and pathways to home ownership, and trying to solve homelessness issues. So we hold the classes here in our conference room, and it's a safe space for veterans to come. I also serve as sort of the regional outreach director for Reboot. And so, in our part of North Carolina, where folks are interested in starting the class. And so the class is really broken down into, it's a 12-week class. It's all centered around a fellowship meal. Every class begins with a meal, and so we just kind of enlist folks that want to cook for that. We bring the veterans in here. We employ mentors who are other veterans that have been through the class. We have folks that pray for the class while it's going on. We have folks that are gifted with hospitality, and so they're just welcoming people in. And the course runs for 12 weeks. We do it from 6 to 8, one night a week. And then we stay connected with everybody via text message and email throughout the week. And at the end, we have this big graduation service. And I'll give you a quick story because I know we're limited on time, but in our first class, we had a very angry veteran that came to the class, and he was very untrusting, but the last thing that I ask people to do, and what the curriculum talks about doing, is for folks to write their story. And so they write it and then they tell it, right? And so this particular veteran started writing his story, and it was 9 pages long, single space, 2 sides. And it took him like 45 minutes to tell it. Well, what ended up happening was that he never stopped writing, and he ended up writing a 600-page book called God Sent the Dog, and it's about him and his service dog, and it's really remarkable. It's self-published, and that was just his healing process. And we've seen that process as folks write down, and the tenets of their story is, what was life like before I entered the military? What happened to me during my time in service? Where am I now, and where am I going? Those are the kind of 4 things we try to get folks to look down the road. And so we try to do this. We try to connect veterans connect them back into a community. And so we give them a team to be back on again. We try to connect them back with their families, and try to open up dialogue with the folks that love them and that they love. And then we try to reconnect them to their faith. Many veterans have lost their faith in God and their belief because of the things that happened to them. And we try to provide an environment where they're loved and cared for and welcomed, and there's no judgment, and so that they can see the people of God loving them in action. And so it's been a remarkable program. We plan on continuing to do that from now until there's no need for it. And so we'll be doing that class twice a year here at Purple Heart Homes every year, as long as the need is there. And so anyhow, that's kind of an overview of what we do. I'll be glad to take any questions and pass it on to our next presenter. So thanks for having me.
Thank you, Brad. As I was listening to you talk, I was thinking about the connection between it starting off at a place of treating TBI, and then looking at whole person wellness and the spiritual component of treatment, and how that influences basically healing your brain. So that's a really interesting connection there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, in the VA world, right? I love my friends that are at the VA. I've got a lot of friends that work there, but sometimes it's just looked at as a physical issue and treated as such. And so I like to think of things as a three-legged stool. Like there's the mental aspect and the physical aspect and then the spiritual aspect. And all three of those legs of that stool need to be equal length so that the stool can sit upright. So yeah, it's a great point. I just hung my email address in the chat box. So if anybody'd like to reach out to me, and also put in there, if you'd like, I'll hang the website for Reboot Recovery as well.
Brad, as you're working in the community, what other gaps or barriers do you see do you see a trend with?
That's a great question. I think the gap that I see most is I think we currently live in a society that still that appreciates military service, but we also live in a society where so few folks are serving now. It's less than 1% of the population of America has served, and so there's a gap in understanding. Is the biggest thing, and there's a lot of people that'll say, "Hey, thank you for your service," right? And that's great, right? Appreciate that, right? All that, Veterans Day and all that stuff. But I think veterans appreciate action. They don't necessarily want to be charity cases, but I heard one veteran say, "Hey, if you want to thank me for my service, be the kind of American that's worth serving for." You know, and so I agree with that sentiment, right? And sometimes I think veterans get frustrated with the state of things, and that contributes to their disillusionment. And but when they see people coming together and doing great things for others, I think that's very encouraging to them. And so stuff like this is something that's much appreciated.
Thank you so much, Brad. Does anybody have any questions for Brad, or feel free to unmute yourself or pop it in the chat box.
I just want to say thank you, Brad. I think that's an awesome program. And when we get our men's shelter up and running in Mount Airy, we're definitely wanting to help veterans. And that program really speaks to me about what we can do.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Well, you just let me know. Please reach out to me. I can help you get the course started. Listen, you don't have to be like a mental health professional or a pastor or anything to run the class, right? It's designed to be peer led. And so, look, if I can teach it, anybody can. Yes. You know, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. So, yeah, it's designed for that, so that community members can help the veterans in their community. So thank you.
Great, thank you.
I will point out real quick before we move on that Christy, if you want to ask your question, you can. If not, we can read it out loud, but feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like.
Okay. I was asking if during the course, the 12-week course, if the veteran is homeless, is there a place that they could stay, or do they just come for the 2-hour class?
That's a good question. So currently, you know, so we don't have a capability of housing veterans, but we are, and I think I saw Michelle Knapp on here. And so we are community partners with Fifth Street Ministries here in Statesville, and that's our local shelter. We're working hand in hand with them through they've got a veterans transition program where they have a house that I think up to 7 or 8 veterans can live in. And so if there's something like that going on that's close by, right, the program could actually be taken to a transition home like that and be taught there. But that's a good question. We don't currently have our dream. Our dream is to have a veterans village someday where we have tiny houses for veterans to live in and have a community for them. So that we have super big, audacious dreams. So we don't have the money to do that, but we're going to get it. So
Very
yeah.
good.
Great question,
Okay.
Christy. Thank you.
Thank you. Mhm.
So our next speaker is Wanda Berger. Wanda, I will let you take it away.
Hi, good morning, everyone. And Brad, it is wonderful to hear of Reboot and the program. We work with a lot of veterans in our program, and we also work with the rescue mission in Winston, and they currently have a group of 6 veterans that are in that program, and we've been looking for resources for them. So that's wonderful to hear. And Brad, you could have done the whole session today. You just have so much information. What I'm going to share with you is I have given 2 handouts to Jerry, and one is on suicide with the veterans, and it includes a myriad of pieces of information. And basically, when you say that there's so much need for the veterans, housing and other supports, folks, do you know that in the state of North Carolina, that 33% of the inhabitants in North Carolina are military or veterans? Okay. So North Carolina is one of the states that has a high population of veterans. And if you factor in the people and the loved ones of the veterans, we probably have over 50% of the residents in North Carolina that are directly related to veterans and have need for supports, not only for the veterans, but for their families. So what I did is I put all this information together with some specific resources, and Jerry will pass that out. But veterans complete suicide. That's the wrong one. But veterans complete suicide over 52. I have my notes here, and my notes were just taken away. Let's see. Yeah, veterans commit suicide over 52% more than other people. And I wanted to give you a little bit more statistics, but they pulled up the supports here. Here are some specific supports, and these are for the families and for the Veterans Network. And if I could have my other slide, please. Do you have the other slide? Okay, there we go. This is, yeah. So I wanted to give you so I'm sorry, I'm tongue-tied here because I was in the middle of talking and my slide was taken away. Okay, so veterans commit suicide 1 out of 5 in this country daily. And they estimate that 22 veterans die by suicide every day. And 1,000 suicides occur among veterans at a VA facility, and 5,000 suicides occur among all veterans. So just wanted to give you this, and some of the statistics here specific to military for suicide are the frequent deployments and other environments. And folks, the big thing I want to talk about supports is that the families really need to understand what their loved one is going through. And so we try to find the supports for the family members as well. So have you all heard of Aunt Bertha? Has anyone here heard of Aunt Bertha? Aunt Bertha is a program that was implemented by a retired military person and started it a few a few years ago. And when you can Google Aunt Bertha, and Aunt Bertha is all over the US. And you can Google Aunt Bertha and put your zip code in, and it will bring up resources close to home. And so some of the things will be supports for family members, and you want to reach out to mental health providers, family supports, family programs, groups for families to help understand, because resiliency comes from, for the military folks, resiliency comes from those in their circle that can help them. And that's why Brad and then Mike will be speaking. That's why their resources for the veterans is so important, and to understand that. So there are so many people that have so much to share today, and I don't want to take up much more time, but if they will email out all the information I put together for you, and specific resources to this area. And in Yadkin County specifically, there is a website for veterans in Yadkin County, and it is Yadkin County Gov-67-Veteran Services. And right there, it's all your specific services for veterans is in this website. And you can, it also has links to Mike Smith, who is the Veterans Affairs Administrator. And in Yadkinville on 208 North Jackson Street, you can actually go in and find resources and speak to them. And there's a VFW post here in Yadkinville. And there's also a link to North Carolina American Legion. Okay. And that's all the time I want to take, because all of my resources and all the statistics are on 2 pages for you guys. And you've got some people coming up that have some excellent things to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Wanda. Have you noticed an impact from COVID and people reaching out to you for resources?
Yes, we've had a lot of more calls, and the important piece to understand here is we get more phone calls and emails from family members and loved ones of the veterans than we do with the veterans.
Thank you for sharing all of those resources, and thanks for joining us this morning on the panel. Does anyone have any questions for Wanda? And Wanda, I can probably think of some more at the end for you.
Well, that's okay. These other guys have so much to share, and I'm willing to give up any of my time for us to hear from the rest of them.
Wanda, what was the email again for the Yadkin County Gov?
They put it in the chat.
Okay.
That's the website, YadkinCountyNC.gov, the Veterans Services. Wonderful resource. But folks, I challenge those of you who have not heard of Aunt Bertha. Aunt Bertha is fantastic for veterans, but for many resources. You'll find 2,000 to 5,000 resources in each county when you look this up.
So Wanda, that gives me a perfect segue to speak. If you go to the Partners public website, Partners is directly connected to Aunt Bertha, and there's a way, work with one of your community engagement specialists in your area, and we can work with anyone that needs that information as well. So I just wanted to mention that as you brought up Aunt Bertha. I thought it was a good time to bring that up. And we're working on getting your slides shared. We'll either try to get it in the chat box. I'm gonna have to default to Abby on doing that because I don't know how, or we will send those out to the group after the meeting. But we'll work on that. But please check our website out for the Aunt Bertha information. We are directly connected to them.
Thank you, Jerry. Up next, we have Mike Cloy. Mike, you want to take it away?
All right. I'm a retired Army colonel, so once you give me the handset, I will take control. I'll take it away, as you said. Hey, good to be with y'all, and happy Thanksgiving to all those that are with us and to your family members. I have several hats. The one I'm going to talk to you about today is the Veterans Treatment Court at Catawba County. It's a new endeavor. It's a new entity in the community. There are 5 of these treatment courts in the state of North Carolina. These treatment courts are designed, they're a little different in each county, but they're designed to help veterans that are justice involved navigate a treatment plan to become self-sufficient again. In other words, not on a habit of drug taking or substance abuse, or and helping them with their mental health challenges and so forth. Now, as Brad stated, many of our veterans, when they get out, are having a hard time transitioning into the military community, this civilian community, out of a military closed culture. And they get involved in all types of things that they shouldn't get involved in. And they often wind up with being engaged with the local law enforcement and the court system. And because it's overwhelming to them, that is the substance that they're on, the mental health challenges they're going through, they don't know where to start to get help. And the treatment court is designed to provide a pathway of court-ordered plans and engagement of the veteran by the judge, prosecuting attorney, and defense attorney to, in about a year to a 2-month period of time, to get the veteran self-sufficient. So they go through particular phases in the court, and they graduate, and they are deemed successful. And in many cases, their whatever charge they had is expunged off their off their record. And or if that's not possible, then probation may be reduced to removed and so forth. But each veteran's story, each veteran's justice involvement is going to be dealt with differently. Very successful program. It's a national program. It's supported by the VA through a grant program. And in that structure, in the structure of the court, you have the judge, as I mentioned, and our judge is a former Army captain, and many of our folks that are serving on the treatment team, the 15 people that sit on the treatment team, are veterans. So our prosecuting attorney is a retired Air Force JAG officer. We have probation officers, we have mental health professionals, we have treatment professionals, we have drug testing professionals. And then we have this person called a court coordinator. And that person is paid through the grant. Our court coordinator, and most of your court coordinators are going to be former military. Ours is a medically retired sergeant from the 82nd Airborne. So he's from North Carolina, got out of the Fort Bragg area and came to Catawba County. He has a master's in counseling, I believe, and he works with all the court professionals. He works for the court system, and he goes out and enrolls veterans into the court. Now he does that through finding them in the jailhouse to finding them on the street. And he's the one that will then introduce them through the defense lawyer and start the process of a pre-enrollment agreement, as if they were to navigate the program in its fullness, what the outcomes will be. In other words, again, charges done away with to probation reduced and several other things that could happen. We take veterans who are not violent felony offenders. Most of these veterans are high misdemeanors and low felonies. And they have to volunteer. So, you know, it's not like they can be put into this court system. They have to actually, because they have to navigate the process, which is again 2 years, up to 2 years. They have to agree to be part of that. The other piece to the court is what we call the Veterans Treatment Court Mentor Coordinator, and that's the role I fill. Every veteran that enrolls in the court is paired up with another veteran, usually the same service. So if we have a Marine, we usually try to marry up a mentor, and these are volunteers from the community. We'll marry them up to that veteran, and they are responsible for helping the veteran navigate the process by just listening, by being there at all hours of the night, kind of like a chaplain, kind of like a chaplain, always on duty 24/7 to meet needs, to hear people, and to maybe get them the help where they need to get help through providers such as we have here today. They're not part of the treatment team. The mentors are separate and distinct because we don't want the veteran to feel as if the conversations that they're having with the mentor is going to get to the judge or the prosecuting attorney, defense attorney. And so it's almost again like a chaplain. Those conversations are sacred in the sense that they're private and they're not releasable unless it's something they've done illegal. And at that point in time, the mentor is trained, and there's a training program. It's a real simple training program, but they're trained to get the veteran to reveal what they've done to the judge. And I'll give you a little setting. So you're in a courtroom, the judge is there, all the veterans are seated in the gallery, right next to them is their mentor. So there's that natural relationship. And they're called forward one by one. So, you know, veteran Cloy is called forward, stands next to the defense attorney. The judge asks, how's it going? Now, you got to remember, we meet every 2 weeks on a Thursday at 2 o'clock. So every 2 weeks, he's standing before the judge. And the judge says, how's it going? And what's working for you? And they have a conversation. And it's a non-adversarial court. The judge is being very respectful, listening to everything that veteran wants to talk about. They are tested right before the court, drug screen. And if they are 60 days, 90 days clean, something unusual happens. The judge calls them forward, presents them with a certificate, and there's applause. It might be that they've been clean for 2 weeks. We all applaud. They're able to get a goodie out of a goodie bag if they've done well. And what they've determined through research is the more affirmations that the veteran can have, positive reinforcement in that courtroom, knowing that they are doing okay, small steps, maybe one step back, but another step forward, that they are going to continue to be supported. The motto for our court is victory earned together. And what they learn is that they are not alone. You got to remember, veterans, I served 27 years. My dad was in 33 years. That's all I've ever known is a military lifestyle. First time I ever had my own zip code was when I got out of the Army in 2008. And what they sense when they get out is they're alone. They don't have their tribe. They don't have their family with them. And so now for the very first time, they feel like they've got their tribe again. And they've got somebody that'll stand next to them and accept them unconditionally, regardless of what path they've been on since they've gotten out. You do have to get involved in the program. You do have to have a DD-214. You have to have served. We'll take pretty much every type of discharge. There are a few exceptions, but they're minor. So the door is pretty wide open for anybody that wants to serve. Now, there is a nuance to our court in the sense that you as a veteran have to live in the county, but that's okay. We'll arrange that. As a mentor, you can come from anywhere. I live in Burke County, so I travel from Burke to Catawba to serve. Mentors can live anywhere, but the veteran who's navigating the court system has to live in Catawba County, and we'll work with you on that. We'll work on that with the veteran. I think that's about it. I will add that the mental health piece, they're getting professional care. The VAs at every one of, we have court coordinator types from the VA that come down from Asheville that are in every court setting, so we can get all their care expedited. I mean, we bypass a lot of systems in the VA for the care that they need. There is occasionally residential care or inpatient care, but then they return, whatever it takes. We just had a female veteran. We had 2 female veterans, which is very rare. And they have a female mentor. And one of them was pregnant, and she just gave birth. And she was sent to a for an inpatient care so that we could protect the baby and herself. And she came back, you wouldn't even recognize her. Her complexion, she gained weight, she looked healthy, and she just gave birth to a healthy baby here a few days ago. So, and then we all applaud her, you know. She comes in with the baby, she's holding the baby, we all applaud her, right? So it's very supportive, non-adversarial. And I'm gonna post on here the Catawba County Veterans Treatment Court Coordinator. He's the one that will help the veterans who want to navigate the court system. You can contact them. My contact information is already in the chat. You can reach out to me as well, but I'm mainly interested in finding those veterans who want to mentor. There you go. Any questions?
I was going to add, oh, sorry. Let me throw this out there right fast. I was going to say, we're going to gather everybody, all of the speakers' contact information and those handouts that Wanda had, and we can email those out after this meeting to the attendees. And Jamie has her hand raised. I think she's having technical difficulties, which we all have with the cameras working and not working, but I wanted to talk about the veterans stand down, I think, Mike. So Jamie, can you unmute? We'll let you do that.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. Okay. Thank you so much, Abby. Mike, I was just going to ask, since you're talking about things in Catawba County, do you want to touch on the Foothills Veterans Stand Down real quick? Because I think that would be a really good way for folks to get involved if they're not already.
Yeah. I'm involved in it. I'm a provider. I work for Veteran Services of the Carolinas, which is based out of Asheville, and we house homeless veterans and get them employed. And we can also help veterans, Wanda, who need emergency housing. So if they don't have a place to be, they need a hotel, we have funds for emergency housing. But the stand down for Catawba County is so well developed over the last few years. It is the go-to stand down in the state of North Carolina. It is so well organized by Veterans Helping Veterans, an organization in Catawba County, and it happens every April and November. We just had our November one, and that's up in Caldwell County. But the one in Catawba County is in April, and it is huge. It's at the community college. It's so well developed that we have veterans from surrounding counties that come from 100 miles that are needing care, from the teeth looked at, to get a haircut, to get a massage, to getting a host of equipment that they might need, shoes, boots, clothing. But more importantly, all the providers are there, partners and everybody else, you know, they're there to provide those services if they want to take advantage of them. So that's it in a nutshell. Did I hit it good enough for you, Jamie?
You did, Mike. And I haven't been involved as far as this year goes. I think it's been more member engagement department at Partners so far. So when is the one for 2022?
It always changes, but it is in April. I'll give you that much. And it's usually about the second week of April. I'll have to provide that information to you once I get it.
Okay, and I'll look as well, Mike, just to see if I can find it real quick. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Hey, this is Michelle Knapp. I just wanted to throw in a couple things that we do here at Fifth Street Ministries for veterans. I know Brad had mentioned Fifth Street earlier when he was talking. We are located in Iredell County, and we serve Iredell, Yadkin, Stokes, Surrey, and Davie. When it comes to veterans, though, we don't really have a hard line. We will really take veterans from any area. But we have a homeless shelter here in Iredell County, which, we serve veterans and non-veterans here at the shelter. We provide case management, food, clothing, resources, transportation, everything needed once they get here. We also have street outreach. So we go out into the bridges, under the bridges, into abandoned buildings and things like that. And we serve all individuals, but veterans too. So just recently we had moved a veteran that was a sex offender, unfortunately, and could not come into our shelter. So we were able to get him to a program in High Point that would take him. And so we connected him to there and we transported him there. And then we also have a transitional program for veterans. So our house holds 5 veterans and then 1 live-in support manager. And so in that program, because it's a VA program, the GDP program, we are required to do daily breathalyzing, drug screenings monthly. It's a very regimented program up to 2 years, but we have a 94% success rate in that program. And so it's a great opportunity for veterans that are ready to move to that step. Here at the shelter, we're low demand. We don't require drug screenings here at the shelter, but once they move over, it is a requirement. So I'm very excited to be working with Brad and Purple Heart Homes. We have joined a new partnership and I'm looking forward to some great things coming out of that. So I just wanted to throw in my 2 cents. I think I'm on the panel for next month. But I just wanted to add what we do here for veterans.
Thank you, Michelle.
Michelle? Could I ask a question, please? Could you post that sex offender program in High Point for me? Okay, I mean, it's not necessarily a sex offender program. It's just a program that is for veterans. It's also a GDP program like ours. But they can accept sex offenders and we cannot because of our location. So, but I can get you that. Okay, thank you. Okay, you're welcome.
Hi, this is Rochelle Mason with Ybetty Public Transportation. And I just wanted to say thank you for all the services that everyone has spoken about today. And I also wanted to let everyone know that Ybetty does provide transportation for our veterans to get to the VA hospital or to get to any of the services that you guys offer. If you have someone who needs transportation, you can refer them to me directly. My email address and my contact information I will put into our chat, or they can call our direct line at 336-679-2071 and choose option number 3 to connect with the reservationist, and we will do our best to assist them with their transportation needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Rochelle. That is amazing. And you guys always provide transport, I believe, for the Foothill stand down when we had that at the CVCC as well. Can you tell everyone what counties and what area that actually covers? Because I can't remember.
Yes, we cover Surrey, Stokes, Yadkin, and Davie counties.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Bob Creighton has put in some Easter eggs in the chat box. Alamance County Commissioner is leading a team to build a VCP. And then also Bob had put in a question about diversion programs. And I'm not really sure if you want to elaborate on that, Bob. I think someone put in that there's one in Wilkesboro. Diversion centers. Do you guys know what a diversion center is? I don't know about that one. Well, we might have to follow back up on diversion centers. Thank you to all the panelists. I actually have a question for Mike. I'm curious, since the Catawba Veterans Treatment Court, I remember coming to the ribbon cutting ceremony back in, I believe, April or May. And I'm curious about your, how many mentors do you have and how many participants in the program?
Yeah, that's a great question. We had scheduled, and the grant, when we wrote it up, it was somewhere around 14 veterans in the first year. We are at 11 right now. And what's unique is our 2 female veterans. Very rarely do you see, for various reasons, it's hard to find a female veteran to submit to the program. But yeah, we were well beyond what we anticipated. And that's because we're out there talking to folks and they're sending them to us. And we have three on the list that Jared's talking to right now to make sure it's a good fit, that they're willing to genuinely commit to the program. When it comes to mentors, it's a little harder. Remember, the court's about every 2 weeks on a Thursday, and it's midday. So most of your folks have to, we want the veteran there as much as they can be, the veteran mentor, that is. And so they have to leave work. And so most of our mentors are my age. They're sort of kind of retired or fully retired. We have some mentors who are self-employed that are in their 30s. That's really connects to our veteran community. But we have also found that the older ones seem to get along better with the younger veterans. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because they've lived long and they don't get too excited about too much. And so that's been a nice feel. So we have currently 1-for-1 mentor to veteran. We have 11 mentors. A mentor can be partnered up with at least 3. We try not to do that. We have 1 mentor that we might have 2 here in the near future. So yeah, we need more mentors, and I'm out beating the bushes. If you got somebody that's interested, let me know.
And if you send Jamie Piercy information on that, she can help also get that distributed in our collaborative groups. So maybe we can help recruit some mentors through our distribution list.
Oh yeah, I'd be glad to. I know who she is.
So if we don't have any other questions for our panelists, and thank you guys again for being on the panel, I'm going to let Jerry talk a little bit about our community cafe for next month.
Thank you, Katie, and thank you to all the people who joined us today. I think today was wonderful. My disappointment is how many people aren't here hearing what you all were talking about. And so these are a great forum, whether it's on this subject or next month's subject, to share information with a very large group. And before I bring up next month, I do want to mention that, when we're talking about resources in general, whether it's homelessness, which I'll speak about in a second, or veterans, or people in the school system, whatever your topic is, the community engagement specialists and the collaboratives are a linkage that can really support those efforts. So if you're not connected and attending those, I highly recommend getting involved. It creates a line of communication that doesn't exist otherwise. So I really encourage everybody to be involved with that. Our training department is wonderful as well. Go to our website, see what we offer. These are important resources that I don't think everybody in the community necessarily touches as often as they could to help each other. With that, next month, we're going to have a very tough discussion, hopefully, where people talk and learn about very similar stuff, but this time related to the homelessness population and the things that they're facing, hopefully sharing some resources. What I encourage each of you is to please join us, because it obviously is a veteran issue. We heard that from a couple of our speakers. It's obviously an issue that touches you guys specifically, but it hits a broader audience. It hits our kids. It hits everybody. So it's an important topic. Now, the challenge is this is happening on December 22nd, the Wednesday at 10 a.m. before obviously Christmas holidays. I understand that's a challenging time, but for people to commit to doing something. But I think today shows why that's so important to sometimes, give us an hour. And I would encourage each of you to be here. I would also encourage you to extend your net to other people and ask them to be on this as well. There's nobody that you know that this doesn't touch, whether it's the homeless population or our veterans. It touches you either directly or indirectly, and we can share information and help more people. So our next one is December 22nd, which is the fourth Wednesday at 10 a.m. You can go to our public website and click and should be able to sign up for that one. I think we'll have to renew the series come January, but you should be able to sign up for that one. And again, please join those collaboratives. That's a way where if you have a targeted need or generic need, we can help you find those resources. We can't always as partners be the resource, but we can help you find that resource. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. And so we are coming up on 11 o'clock, and I want to say thank you again to everybody for joining us this morning, and thanks to our panelists, and thanks for your service. We have a lot to be thankful for the day before Thanksgiving. But I hope you all have an amazing holiday, and I hope you would join us again in a few weeks for our December Community Cafe. So thanks everybody, and have a good day.
Thank you. Have a good Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
I was negligent. For those that are still here, thank you and have a happy Thanksgiving. I was asked to speak to that and I failed at that part. Thank you all.